In the spotlight, we welcome Ebbe Bassey, actor, advocate, and author of Anoushka's Extraordinary Heroes.
Subscribe now to the Filmmakers Therapy Couch podcast.
Welcome to Filmmakers Therapy Couch. This is a place for creatives, entrepreneurs, artists to come and get their tips and tricks for their week ahead. Today we're here with Ebbe Bassey. Yes, she's a creative and she is here on our proverbial therapy couch. And let me just say a disclaimer, I am in no way a therapist or anything. I do have a dusty psychology degree under my bed, but that is about it. I'm a storyteller, I'm a filmmaker. My name's Dami Rock. Welcome, Ebbe, to Filmmakers Therapy Couch. How are you?
I am in perfect health. I have no complaints. All my needs are met and all my wants are right on the horizon.
Oh, I love to hear it. And you're looking super fly. And I have to say, like, it's been some time since I've seen you. And I remember we go all the way back to the BET Urban World Film Festival.
Yes.
I'm sure it's about 16 years now, probably.
Yes, at least. I wasn't even married. We had no kids. We had none of that. We were single and fancy free in the city.
Oh my God, we were just like rising stars, you know,
yes.
like, hey,
yes.
up and downtown in New York. I remember all of the partying and all of that.
Yes.
That was well timed. So, and I met you as an actress. You're an actress,
yes.
You know, all up in the film.
Still am.
On screen,
yes.
Exactly, and still are. And so, like, you know, if we jump into it, I mean, we have a lot in common because of our, you know, our heritage and everything. But how does Ebbe Bassey become this, you know, amazing rising star in the city of New York, with heritage from Nigeria, but also creative in so many other ways? I mean, like, you've been about your business from time. So tell us a little bit about you and how you got into creativity.
Oh, gosh, I guess I've always been a ham. I don't know, maybe it's a Sag in me.
Oh, hello, Saggies.
Yes, you know, right? Yes,
Saggies,
yes.
The best.
So, yes, we are. If you don't want to know, don't ask us. That's just it. Yeah. We will tell it to you straight, no chaser.
That's right.
But how did I get into the creative thing? It's always been in me, but I also had my grandmother who was very encouraging. I think she was born in the wrong era, wrong time, possibly wrong place, you know, because at the time, and actually up until maybe the 1990s, being an actor or a singer in Nigeria was tantamount to being a loose woman. Mm-hmm. And so nobody was encouraged to do that, outside of the fact that we are a people that prizes schooling, you know. So you saying you wanted to study theater arts was tantamount to you saying you just wanted to be a derelict. And nobody was paying for that. Nobody was paying attention to that. But my grandmother had a love for performance, you know, and so all the time that, you know, there would be school plays or church performances, you know, singing, acting, and all of that. Oh, good gracious, she was like a momager. She was in it. She was ready, and you had to practice. And if you didn't do it with style and with grace and with aplomb, oh, she was so offended. She would be so offended. and I think that started me off on this journey, but it lay dormant for years upon years until I started dating this young man. At the time, his father is Ernie Hudson, you know, Ghostbusters, Oz. He played Winston, so I was dating his son, and he was the one who actually encouraged me. He goes, "Well, I mean, did you always want to do what you do for a living?" And I was like, you know, I like it. I do love what I do, but I always wanted to be an actress. And he's like, well, why are you whispering the thing? Like, just say it with your full chest and get about doing it. So he actually took me to William Esper's studio and had me sign up for the summer class, and I did. And you had to be invited back to join the actual full 2-year program. And so I was like, pleasantly surprised when I got invited back for year 1, and then I got invited back to continue with year 2. And so I finished ESPA, and so here we are. But prior to that, I have to say, I don't know how I came across Backstage. For some reason, I think I was walking past a newsstand and I saw it. That's what happened. And I picked it up, I opened it, and on the back, I saw all these auditions, and one of them pop out at me was the princess. Oh gosh, now I forget the name. Let's just say it was like The Princess and the Bride, something like that. And I said, oh, this is a Nigerian play. I had no clue about resumes and pictures and all this stuff, but I did have one glamour shot that my father kind of indulged me at a time where I thought I wanted to be a model. The picture was not anything close to what you needed at the time. It was like I had this black and gold veil thing on my head, popping red lips, when people needed black and white. I walked into that audition, had no monologues. I had my Chinua Achebe book, Things Fall Apart, and there's a monologue in there.
Classic.
I walked in there with that, and I got the part. my made up resume, okay? Barely anything on there. And I'm telling you, they were looking at me. That director was just looking at me like I think the audacity had them stunned that I actually walked in there with such audacity. But hey, they were probably like authentic Nigerian, decent acting skills. At the time, I hadn't even gone to school. And they were like, okay, sure. And I did it. I helped them with costuming outside of being, in the production itself. And I actually have met lifelong friends through that project. My one of my best friends, Femi Ajao, my friend Chet Anekwe, who's an excellent actor. He's actually on oh gosh, I forget the name now. It's a Tyler Perry production set in a hotel. Oh, I forget the name now. I'm very bad with names. So
well, he has so many. He has so many.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I know, right? There's 2,000 of them, but he's on that production. So I met I say that to say I met some really good friends that are still my friends, over 30 years later from that little audacious move of mine. And then after ESPA, I went on, I was fortunately cast in the very first diversity showcase production ever, and it was at ABC. And out of over 200 people who auditioned, I got picked to be part of that. And then I got picked up. My first TV show was NYPD Blue. I played a bus driver who hit someone. Oh, so traumatic. Honestly, I was like, this is not.
That sounds fun to play though, like just to see how that goes down.
Yeah.
And
here we are.
Exactly. So I mean, in terms of the challenges, right? Because you've been doing this for a long time, and I've seen you, evolve over the years, and independent work, mainstream work. Like, what would you say has been the most challenging part of this journey? If you had to pick something that you managed to overcome, what would that be?
I had to overcome expectations. That took me a long time. When I was younger, I would audition for things, and then I'm sitting by the phone. At the time, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have all these, ways to be accessed so easily. So I'd be, and then I would beat myself over and over and over and over again if I didn't get something. And I would sit and dissect myself and dissect the work and look for what I could have possibly done better. But I've gotten to where I do that at a very minimum way. That only really comes up if I desperately really wanted that part. But other than that, I've gotten to where I can just give it my best shot and walk away. And I have come to realize that sometimes it's not me. I could have given them the best performance, but what we do is subjective. And so that's one of the things I had to get over was, look, you give it your best shot and you leave it alone. You can't sit there and focus, because your mental health will suffer if you think that every time you audition for something, you're all caught up in, oh, I gotta get this. And that's one of the reasons why I've always appreciated that I do have a regular job that allows me to be able to let go some of that anxiety, because I'm not depending on that particular audition to get, bill paid,
Right.
So there's that. And then the other thing is, there are not enough of us in the rooms where things get greenlit. You know what I mean? There's not a lot that for a while there was when we started out anyway. Now there's plethora of things. I feel a lot more than when we first started out, when I started out in 1990. 1990, mind your business. There was it was so limited what you could go out for. And then for me, there was other factors, like it took me a while to get to be able to switch from an African or Caribbean-ish tinged accent to an American accent. So there was that. And then there's, I am a Zaftic woman. I was never real thin. So there's that, we big girls didn't get love for the longest time. And now we have Octavia Spencer winning Oscars, so there was a whole bunch of little things that come together to have made it a little bit challenging. But I never gave up. I never ever said, oh, I'm not going to do it because of those reasons or any other reasons. I just feel like what's mine is mine. And when the time is right, my time will come. And I continue to do so. Even after I've had my kid who has a disability, I still continue, because I also want her to see what it's like to keep going for what you want in life, And in her case, she has a disability. And I want her to know, don't let anybody use your disability to discredit you, to keep you out of certain things. If you feel like you want to do something, then go for it. And for me, that's it. I've never allowed being short or being on the heavy side or even having an accent or whatever it is keep me away from going for things, because I also feel like those things can be an added value. I come with my own perspective.
In that transition, and we just talked a little bit earlier about like mental health as well, like in that transition, there's a sacrifice that needs to be made. Motherhood is, and so like, how did you cope with that? What was that sacrifice, and what was the implication on your mental health?
I have to say that I was quite fortunate enough to have fallen into a relationship and furthermore married someone who's a creative as well. So that in and of itself had made life a little easier, because it's hard when you date someone who's a left brainer, who just is a very workhorse. They can't understand sometimes what we do. Oh, you have to go to Ghana to do what? For how long? Why are you in the room screaming or needing space, whatever. But
Creative, honey.
yeah. I have a husband who's a musician. And so he's a creative, and so he understands the rigmarole and the ups and downs of the business. One minute you're high and you're like, I'm on a show and da-da-da, and then the next minute you're like, it didn't get picked back up, oh my God, what to do now? So I was grateful in that sense. I had that. Transitioning over to motherhood and still being able to maintain what I do, the difficult part was the diagnosis I got for my daughter. She got diagnosed with Down syndrome in utero, and this happened when I was off Broadway. I was actually off Broadway, acting, singing, dialect coaching, and it made for a very unhappy 6 months for me, because she came at 30 weeks. She couldn't wait to come at her due time. So
That's very
then-
early, right? So that's a lot.
Oh yeah, 30 weeks, and then she was in a hospital from March 22nd when she was born through and came home on May 14th. And then I went through a year and a half of postpartum depression. And so those were really rough times for me. Acting, anything creative was not of interest to me. I just, and prior to me getting pregnant and having my daughter, my husband and I were never one of those people that were like, oh, we can't be creative and be parents. We'd always said if we had a kid, they fall in line with what we do. He'd be like, oh, if I go on tour, you guys can come on tour with me, or if you're going to shoot a film, we all can go, or whatever like that. So but then a year and a half of not being in that mental space that's required, I needed to focus a lot of energy on my healing. And I'm very grateful for a place I went to called the Motherhood Center. And it's a place that specifically deals with women and depression, mothers and depression, not just women. So let me be clear. Mothers, people who are pregnant, and people who have given birth that are in the throes of depression. So I really needed that space. I really had a very difficult first year and a half of being a mom. My mental health suffered because I had not fully accepted that my only child, that took me 6 years and 2 IVF procedures to have, was going to have a lifelong, forever disability. So that was hard for me because I had this vision of what parenting was going to be for me, motherhood was going to be for me, but nowhere in there did I and nobody does, right? Yeah, I mean, I did, I was ultra religious at the time. I would be rebuking, casting and binding everything, autism, this, Down syndrome, that, and that. And to be honest, I have been in the last couple of months big into manifestation and such. And and sometimes I feel like I focus so much energy into rebuking Down syndrome and rebuking in my prayers, or, in my space, spiritual space, that I think I kind of just really attracted it to myself. Because there's this saying about the things you focus on, vision and see and focus your energy on, can possibly be brought into your reality.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's
sometimes there are times I think about it and I say, I think you had focused, you were so scared of the fact that you were a geriatric, that's the term they use, geriatric mom.
But wait. Let me just say though, with the geriatric mom thing, like in America, it's 35. They say you're geriatric.
Oh yes.
Absolutely. But in the UK, it's 42. So just be aware that it is arbitrary. I think it's definitely about how.
In UK terms, I was geriatric because I was 42 when I got pregnant with Anoushka, and I had her at 43. But I was like, oh, I mean, hey, Janet Jackson had her kid at 50. I mean, nothing happened. And there are people who do have their kids, obviously, at 46, 47, 49 even. My mom had my baby brother at 39 and nothing happened. But I say, listen, what's going to happen is going to happen, and certain things may happen to you to grow you, to challenge you, to give you purpose. So I've come to where, and the one thing I had to do to get myself over that hump was first accept that this was going to be my life. This is the child that was given to me, assigned to me, and there's a reason for it. So you can either find the purpose in this situation and do something with it, or you could just sit and cry over your spilt milk. Take the sour grapes and make champagne out of it.
Absolutely.
Pop it.
Yeah,
and
pop it
toast
and make
to
it
your
work.
life and make it work, or sit there and look at those sour grapes, eat them, and squeeze your face.
Well, so let me say here's to you, because you obviously popped that champagne.
I surely did, darling. I surely did.
And I'm proud of you for that. And so, like, give us like one of the things that Going to the Center helped you with in terms of your postpartum, that maybe any creative
the center.
Yeah, like, or, you know, in that journey, anyone that influenced you during that time that gave you something to hang on to that you might be able to share with others.
So one thing for sure is that the center, there were everybody was there. Okay, I mean, women that lived in a financial district that had night nurses and money out their orifices were all there. So depression knows no socioeconomic status.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's one thing.
Human beings only.
Yes, you can't be thinking, oh God, this don't happen. Oh yes. And there were people there that were pregnant and depressed. So, and then there were people like myself who already had our kids. So it was just really like mind-blowing, you know, because when you go through pregnancy, and nobody talks about postpartum depression. They all talk about the joy of being a mother. But propaganda. It's like
the
propaganda.
The motherhood propaganda.
Yeah, it's like the motherhood.
What about the Instagram pictures though, Ibby, right? So like everyone's like, look at me looking so like, I'm glowing. I'm glowing
and I'm back in my
I was puking in my pregnancy. So
spread from left to right. You know, it's like, get out of here with this propaganda, okay? Let me rest. But
we're creating God's work, so it's not going to be easy.
Yes. And then I think what helped me at the center was having the space to really speak on how I was feeling. When you're from African backgrounds, there's no such thing as saying how you're feeling. You pick up the rug, you stuff it there, and then you lay it back down. You avoid looking at the little hump. That's what we do. So I was very happy to have a place where I could express how much I hated being where I was at, not having the vision I wanted, to be bratty and feel bratty about the whole situation. So that was helpful. But I have to say, the number one thing that truly helped me, because I felt like there was no light at the end of this tunnel. Everything you hear about Down syndrome is not positive. They speak so much of the impossibility that they leave no room for what's possible. Even the way they give you the diagnosis announcement is so negative. When I had my daughter, the doctor just sauntered in, hand in pocket, cocked to the side, and looked at me and said, "You are aware your daughter has Down syndrome, right?"
Wow.
And I said, yeah. And then she turned and walked off. She didn't come close to me at all. She stood, she had to be at least a good 20 feet away or something. Like, not even coming and saying, "How are you feeling? Are you okay?" Okay, so I do have to say that I don't know if you're aware, but your daughter does have Down syndrome. No, it was just, I was in such a dark place because everything was, she might not talk. She might not be able to jump. She might not ride a bike. She will never drive a car. She will not cook. It was just all the things, dressing herself. This is that. The coordination is off. But, oh, good gracious God, where do you go from there when you're already at the bottom and people's feet are on your neck? How do you rise up from that? How do you see any light from there? It's as if they put you in the sub-basement of the sub-basement, and then expect you to go and raise your kid.
You're like, good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that. This country's weird. If I had said I want to have an abortion, right? You're gonna kill God's child. Then you have the kid. Well, who told you to, hey, you didn't have to become a mother. And then you beg and you plead for the resources. And then they get to 22 and it's like, okay, good luck with that. Nobody wants to hire them. So there's a whole, side conversation on that. But anyway, the one thing that gave me hope was I happened to, again, I just came across this serendipitous, this show called Born This Way. And for the first time, a reality show actually did good in the world. It was a show that followed, a reality show that followed 8 young adults with Down syndrome and showing how they lived their lives. From 18, I think the oldest was about 32. That show was like, let there be light. And it flooded my sub-basement. And I said, whoa. So, this is how I make champagne. Huh, okay, good. Let's go.
That.
All these young people had businesses, speaking clearly and, communicating with their parents, their friends. They're sassy, they have attitudes, they are fierce, They're in college, graduated from college, graduated from high school. They're out and about. They're making decisions for themselves, for what they want to do with themselves, etc. And I'm seeing parents that have poured into their children, and I tell people even now, I say, when you get that diagnosis, you have a choice. You can either what you get is a shell. You get a shell. And you could either decide you're going to build yourself a Lamborghini or you're going to build yourself a Pinto. That's up to you.
That's up to you. And you know what, Ibby, I mean, it really does segue into what I want to talk to you about next, which is like this whole thing about storytelling and like, living, telling the story that you were born to live. And, yours is, taken on a different direction now. And I think that's so interesting because it really, speaks to what we're doing here at Filmmakers Therapy Couch with like, empathy and storytelling. And so tell us what you made of this in terms of creativity and how it, leads you on the road to where you're currently at, which obviously is talking about the book that you have that's currently out.
Yeah. So, having Anoushka, watching the show, and I just was so encouraged by what was possible for my daughter, and what was possible for me as a parent, and the whole idea of the book or telling my story, which I really haven't. Actually, it's funny, when this book came out, my friend bought the book and then he said, oh, I thought this book was going to be about your journey from the diagnosis and going through the postpartum and losing your faith and finding yourself back. I was like, well, that's not the book that the divine made strong. Made strong in my spirit as the first thing to go out. You know what I mean? I said, because I could tell my story through telling the story about the book. You know what I mean? Anyway, so once I watched the show, once I was getting myself back together, I fell into this rabbit hole of research. All the research I didn't do before when I got the diagnosis, because I was like, my God is not gonna do this to me. No, sir. I was praying and casting and binding and anointing my belly until that baby came, and I said, well, I guess he did do it. He did do it to me. He did make my child come into the world with Down syndrome. That's okay. Let's see what we can do, right? So there was that, and watching that show really helped me, right? And then I fell into this rabbit hole of research. Just stay with me, right? One girl was on this platform, pregnant. Entire family was telling her, you will never have a job, you will never travel, you will never be able to find a daycare or a sitter. Like, basically, your life is over. Abort mission.
Oh no.
Yes. And she said one thing that went into my mind, and it stayed there. And she said, is there a book with people with Down syndrome doing great things that I could show them so they could leave me alone. At the time, didn't think about it at all, right? And then I have Anoushka, and I'm constantly reading to Anoushka, reading. And, I have Little Leaders, this book, which is fantastic. It has Phyllis Whitley and Nina Simone and various people, Marie Curie, well, no, not Marie Curie, but African-American greats in there, Tubman, Sojourner. And I would read that to her, and it's great. And then one day I was reading another book. It's called Iconic Women A to Z. It starts out with Amelia Earhart, and then Beyonce, Coco Chanel, so on and so on, through the alphabet. And I thought to myself, this is akin to me when I was akin to me being a kid in the 70s and the 80s, and there were no real books with African Americans in it. And I keep reading these books to my kid. None of these people, yes, they're Black women and they reflect her Blackness and her womanness, but the primary thing people will notice about her because of her face is her disability. And there's no book out here that shows her people she should look to. Yes, look to Phyllis Whitley. Yes, look to Harriet Tubman. But I want you to also be able to look to Karen Gaffney, Colette DeVito. Yes, Isabel Tejada. That's your tribe. So one day I'm in the shower. The bathroom is where the best ideas are made sometimes. I don't know why, but it just seems to work that way. I'm in the shower.
Yep, the bathroom is definitely a good place.
Listen,
for ideas and creativity.
The acoustic is great for singing, and it's great for ideas. And the bathroom is good for ideas. I'm in the shower, and it was like, ding, 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 boom. 6 years ago, or 5 years ago, that girl's thing about where's a book, where's people I could show my family that, hey, people with Down syndrome can do things. And then, me just reading that iconic woman thing and thinking these women are great, but Beyonce does not really represent Anoushka in the, if you go dig deeper, right? Boom. I said, well, why ain't there a book, right? And so I sat. And the funny part about this is when Anoushka was a baby and came home from the hospital, I had created an IG for her by the time she was 1.5 years, 2. And I used to post these folks on her IG. So I had already kind of started it, right? Except that now I put it together in a book. I decided, why not? Why isn't there a book? And so I just said, yeah, okay, we're going to have a book. I didn't know how I was doing it. I never self-published. I don't know nothing about self-publishing, none of that. But you know what? You know how we are. Let a woman get an idea. She going to be like, come hell or high water. It's happening.
And I love that. And congratulations, because, it's as a filmmaker to make, whether it's a book, a film, whatever, art, a song, it's a process. It's a process. And
you don't know all the facets of it. You have, so we Sagittarius, we're good for big ideas, right? We have big ideas, and then when it gets down to the detail, right, we're like, ooh, who's doing this for us? Yeah, come here. You. I have the idea. Here it is. Now you work out all the rest of that shit.
Exactly. So now let's talk about that, because that's and I think that's going to be helpful for people as well. Is how to delegate, because one thing is you have over here in this pool is motherhood, but you're not about just to X that out in order to create your next baby, your book, bringing that into the world. So delegation is key, but how did you go about that process, and how did you make it happen?
It is important to have a good village, team support around, and I am very fortunate to have a very supportive husband, Mark, my husband. He was like, hey, this is what you want to do, let's go for it. And it's about managing my time too, and not everybody's situation is the same, and I am blessed to be able to work a regular job that allows me to work from home, right? And so that gave me a lot of flexibility, where I could set my schedule, maybe start work at 6:30, and then I'm off by 2, and then I could use the time before Anoushka gets home to run to a cafe, because I know if I sit at home, I'm going to be tempted to want to do laundry or something.
Right.
Something is going to catch my eye. Oh, there's a plate in the sink. So I would take myself to a cafe. Another thing was Mark would take Anoushka on in the mornings on the weekends. And so I would, have a certain amount of time from say 8 to like 12 to go sit again at a cafe, or in my home office. I had to lock the door because my daughter go, Mommy, Mommy, knock, knock.
And you're like, it's my time now. But...
Right. Oh, like she understands what that is. My time is her time. Her time is her time. And daddy's time, everybody else's time is her time.
Exactly.
So I would take that time. So it's a matter of working with your partner and communicating. And we would, hey, how much time do you need, babe? I'll be like, okay, can you, take on Anoushka for 3 hours here or whatever. And if she took a nap, I'd use that time. So it was a matter of just managing time and having good communication with my partner. And so he would plug some of the hole while I do this, and then we reverse, because he also has his dreams, and he practices his drums, he has his tabla and his things that he likes to do. So we worked it out. So when you have a good village, it can really be helpful. So I know everybody's situation is not the same, but the thing is that if it's important to you, you will make that time, and you'll find those spaces to make your own for what you need to do. And it is important to find those spaces, and it all doesn't always have to be that you're writing some big opus, you know what I mean? But we do all need to find that time in a day that's strictly just yours. So of recent, what I do is I know Anoushka will be up by 7, so 6:30 I wake up and I listen to my meditation. I do my I am affirmations, my positive affirmations, and those things, so that my day is kicked off on a very positive note. So as much as I do love to sleep, but I make sure that I wake up at that time to give myself a good foundation for the day, right?
Yeah.
And
And
same thing
and
is-
that's morning routine as well, right? So
yeah.
and I think that's really key here. The morning routine, getting yourself into that action of doing the same thing every day and
Yeah.
compounding it over
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So what else is in your morning routine? So you've mentioned the devotion and everything. So whether it's
Yes.
your prayer and your I am.
Yes.
What else gets you up and going in that morning to keep you motivated and on schedule?
Yeah, so because I have a child like I do, children or young adults with Down syndrome, they don't move at the same pace. They need their time. And so because I know that, and I'm also a very impatient person, God knew giving me this kid. I think it was just a matter of him trying to get me to work on my patience. I'm one of those people like, okay, 2 people on the line, you're taking too long to order your little frothy 2 foam, 3 shakes, this spoon, stare twice, damn latte. We need to go. Hello. But then now I have a kid who that doesn't work with. She needs her time. So it's very important for me to give myself enough time. So that's one. And then having my affirmations and my prayers, or my gratitude affirmation, my positive I am affirmations, very important, so that when she does wake up, I am in a very good mind space to deal with her particularities. Takes her a minute, even putting the socks on, putting underwear on, and all of that stuff. I still lose patience here and there. I'm not no saint, and sometimes could you just put the socks on, let's go. But that doesn't just apply to
Every
kids with
parent
Down
understands
syndrome.
this. Every parent understands this. Sometimes you've got to get to where we're going. Come on.
Exactly. So there's that. So allowing myself enough time so that I don't run into where I'm short with her, and then feeling mom guilt, which is a real thing, and feeling bad because I just, yelled at her, or, and things like that. So there's that. And then I have really gotten to, even though I may not look like it, but I have gotten really back into working out.
You
and
look
find
like it, hon. You look like it. Because it's not just the physical, right? It's the mental and everything.
Yes,
so, you know,
I need
with
that.
The brain and everything.
Yes.
So this is all positive.
I have to tell you, I was never a workout person. I hated the gym. But that thing they say about doing something for 2 weeks and it becoming a habit is facts. Because when I did say to myself, okay, you know, you need to be healthy and strong, and you need that outlet, right? And I started lifting, and I started going and making it. It's gotten to where now if I don't go, I feel like I'm missing something.
Good. That is so good. How often do you go?
So I try to go at least 6 days a week. You know, 5 to 6 days a week. And
well done. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm on Instagram saving reels of like things people are doing that I can, you know, also do, like exercises. I'm big into the whole body workout thing, you know. So I found all these, like one I love to do is the gorilla row, because you're working your core, your arms, your back, you know, and I love doing it. So going to the gym is very is one of those things. And then I have a gratitude journal. I always feel like we remember to be grateful for big things, like, oh God, I got that house, that car, or whatever. But it's like, yeah, be thankful for that great cup of coffee too that you just had this morning, or that somebody paid you a compliment, or that, you know, a residual check showed up.
Right.
When you were about to like take 20 from here to add to there, you know, rob Peter, pay Paul. So all those small things that they're just as equally as important as the fact that, yeah, you could pay the mortgage or whatever. But I write down things like, I'm grateful that my daughter crawled into the bed and the warmth of her body at 6:30 in the morning is so hard.
Yes.
So we lose track of, we just feel grateful for the big things, but there are those small things. Like I will write, I'm grateful to have made it home from work today, because there are people who left their house to go to work
and did not come back
and don't come home. So we never think about those things. So I've started keeping a gratitude journal, not just for the major things that occur in my life, but for the tiniest of things. That I had that croissant I shouldn't have had, but God darn it, that
delicious.
Oh, that thing was like in the back of my head, giving me that nice tingly feeling, you know, things like that. So that when I get to 12:31 to 4, I want to sit down and say, wow, look at the goodness. Look at God, or look at the divine spirit, right? All these amazing things. Because being grateful is not something that, it's not a feeling you have just when things are working right for you. It's a feeling you have whether things are working right or whether you're in a challenge. Because guess what? When you're grateful for the things that are working right, excellent. But be grateful for the challenges, because they're the things that build your character, that make you who you are as a valued member of society. Because if everything is always easy peasy, then nobody knows what your mettle is. What is your mettle? What can you handle? You know, so I try to remain in the sphere of gratitude, because gratitude attracts miracles.
It really does.
Yes, the more grateful you are, the more you will. And sometimes another thing is to have patience with ourselves, because we just want to see it just popping, pop, right? And sometimes it's like, dude, if you just sit back and chill. And I'm speaking to myself too, because right now I want this book. I want to be on Tamron Hall, J.
Okay, we want that for
Barrymore.
you too.
Yeah, so I can talk about this book.
Look, so we're going to talk about the book next, and we're going to, gonna start wrapping down. But
yes,
to your point about gratitude, I think is so important, because even if, especially when you're feeling low, and this is Filmmakers Therapy Couch, so it's we're trying to, so and sometimes you wake up and you're like, well, I didn't get, that grant didn't come through, or I didn't get that acting job, or whatever it might be. So then it's like that gratitude gives you like, whether you're looking and you're saying like, I'm grateful for this cup of coffee that I can have, because there's someone else who don't have that cup of coffee. So it just gives us that reason for being, even if the big stuff isn't happening. So I love that you said that. We can be here in the guilt vibe, and that's not that does not push us
That's
forward.
not the vibe. Exactly.
That is not the right vibe.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, there are things we say to ourselves that if somebody on the street said that to us, it'd be fighting words. How you think you're seeing what your work is how somebody, and it's okay for them not to see it that way, because maybe it's not for them to see, because the person who should is coming.
Exactly. And the other thing is, like, as you start to get older, we start to care, well, hopefully we start to care less about what other people think of us, because
but IG makes it hard. Social media, honey,
because
will have you out here crazy.
But it's the perception, right? So, like, you know, other people's perception of us shouldn't count, but unfortunately it does, because of the way society is set up. But if we really just looked at ourselves and said, like, what would we do if other people didn't care, right? If we weren't sitting there looking at what their perspective is of us, because our perception is usually different. It's a perception of things. Hello, like, because, and also there's a voice in my head, which is a very Nigerian mother voice. It's like, what are you doing now, Dami? You should not do this. You should not, you know. And so I'm already policing myself.
Or there's other Nigerian mother voice, which is like, Bola, does she have two heads? Why is she can she do that? You yourself, you're sitting here, you know.
Well, look at you. Are you a loose lady? Your husband, she's a doctor, lawyer.
Only you here, creative.
Creating what?
Create money. Go and create some money.
Where's your Oscar?
Exactly.
Still doing this. Where's Oscar?
That's the thing. People think that we get into this thing for Oscars and this. We don't get into. I mean, that's a byproduct, but we don't get into this for that.
Listen, there's not enough. Well, what I'm saying is that you can break. You know, when you break, because we know we can get to the point where the money is flowing, but a lot of, you know, like, a lot of that does not, like, people don't see. Everyone's like, you want overnight success. I'm like, overnight, 25 years overnight success. Like, that's how it usually plays out. So most people are not in this industry, you know, just for the fun of it. It's the passion, of course, but we'd be up doing it regardless of getting paid, and that is sometimes the issue and the problem. So I'm glad that you have the partnership of, you know, someone else to be able to show, like, okay, are you going to get up and do this, and having you being accountable. So I would definitely say to the audience, like, who do you have helping you with that accountability? Because like, that's what wins. And like, you've given us so many of the tidbits today about, like, you know, how to get from your A to B, right? And also to overcome this adversity, you know, the adversity in the way. And so, you know, one of the main things was, you know, coming back to the gratitude, and, like, you know, also, you know, this idea of, like, thinking outside of yourself. And so
stepping outside of that, getting out of your own way, your own way.
And so you're out of your own way now, and, you know, and you've got this book and it's out there, and it's like you've pivoted. So for those, you know, so my question here would be about, like, you know, people who are thinking about pivoting, that, you know, okay, wait, you know, so Ibby's out here, she's an actress, and she's like doing big things in the acting world, and now, you know, circumstance changed, and she's pivoted now to being, you know, an author of a book that is now selling, but also advocating, right? So there's activism in this book. So there's something here about the diversity, the equity, the inclusion in the story that you're now telling. So speak a little bit to that, and, like, just, you know, this idea of pivoting, because there's a lot of people out there who, you know, we're creative, and there's lots of things that you're passionate about. It might not be the thing that currently is bringing in all the, you know, all the coins, but you're thinking about pivoting from one place to another. What tools do you need in order to do that?
Again, I would say a village.
We'll come back to the village, like the village.
Yes, it does. It does, because you're okay. Unless you are not in where I am, or where you are, for instance, having a child, you know, having children, right? But I feel like even if you're a single person and don't have, like, those extra very important responsibilities, you still need soundboards. You need people around you. So one, if you're going to pivot, you have to think, what are your reasonings for it? Are you doing it for the right reason? Are you truly passionate about this thing you're going to pivot to? Because it's not just so that, I don't know, you occupy your time, or it's because somebody else is doing it. You know what I mean? So one, you want to have a good, solid support system, good friends, good professional friends that will give you sound advice, right? Two is for you to determine for yourself also, well, let's flip it, right? So determine this is really what you want to pivot to. You have a plan, you have a reason behind it, you know what you want to do with that idea. Then have people that will support you, but also be able to go against you too, not just people who say yes, yes, yes. You need
Right.
a
Not
good
the yes men.
Yes, you need people around you that will tell you when you're, going off base. Then obviously 3, do your research, find mentors in that field, and do your research as to, what the possibilities are, right? And then make your plan and go for it. It's reward, make sure that whatever it is rewarding for you, because there's no need to go and do something and you're not getting anything out of it. For me, writing my book, it was rewarding in the sense that I can change mindsets about people's general negative view on people that have Down syndrome or any disability. I speak to Down syndrome because that is what particularly affects my family. But for me, that there was purpose in that, to educate people, to change mindsets, to advocate, for people like my daughter, to advocate that society changes its mindset about people like my daughter. So whatever it is you want to, get into or pivot into, make sure it's something that you can get in an elevator and for five minutes you have with someone, you could really speak passionately about that thing.
I love that. And so as we, this is going to be like a quick fire thing about like your self-care, because in order to, achieve everything that you're achieving, like you need to be looking after yourself. So and so just say in the face of criticism, or people, like you said, you're having to change minds, especially with your daughter and the book and her disability. Like in the face of criticism, what are the tools in place for self-care that you enlist to keep you going through? I mean, one, we're sad, so it's just like water off a duck's back, but like but
you saw my face, right? I was like
you're like, criticism, okay. What but just to keep going, because and this is for everyone as well, because we're also in a world of social media. Everyone has their 2 cents,
yes,
keyboard
of course.
warriors.
Yes.
So how do you deal with that?
So in the first place, I always think that anybody's opinion about me is their business, not mine. So I work very hard to try not to absorb people's energy in that sense. I am an empath in a way, so that it can be difficult. I am hard on myself sometimes, so but I've worked very hard to make it their business and not mine. And what I do is focus on me, focus on what I'm doing, because anybody can sit behind a computer and say whatever. Anybody can come in your face and say whatever, and that's their prerogative. But as long as I don't let that sway me from what I'm doing, because I started what I'm doing with a pure heart, right? And so I will focus on me, focus on what the book was intended to do. And if that book is doing that, if it's touching 10 people and not just this one person, I'm good. Have your opinion, keep it. So that's one. And then another thing I do is, like I said, I stay in a attitude of gratitude and keep my meditation and keep a positive spirit. Another thing is I actually pencil in self-care in my calendar. It pops up.
That's good.
Self-care. And so that could mean an hour of just my crossword puzzle in my bed. It could also mean me doing a facial for myself. So, it doesn't always have to be a big thing. So I do facials, or I could go for a massage, or get my nails done, or just simply go. I live where there's lots of hiking trails. Just going out on a walk and hearing the birds, and there's a place I like to go to that has like a little brook, so I like to just hear the water over the rocks and things like that. So I actually pencil in self-care, because if you don't do that, you will forget to take on yourself while you're taking on everybody else, the boss, the kids, the husband, the this. And then you have to make sure people know that. Husband, for this 1 hour, I don't want anybody knocking on my door. Don't call me, don't text me, nothing. The house is not on fire. I don't want to know about it. Because if you don't, people don't mean to. Let me just say, the people we love, they don't mean to. But they will take and take and take and take, and then there's nothing of you left. I say this always, if this is the only thing you take out of this. We are trees, right? Root, trunk to roots, and then the branches, the leaves, and all of that, those are extensions of who we are. A daughter, a cousin, an aunt, an employee, a mother, and all those various things. But guess what? If that tree trunk is not fed, all of those things fall off. They do. The branch will wither and die. The leaves will get yellow and fall off, right? So you need to fill up your person. Because at the end of the day, while you wear multiple hats, I'm still Ebbe, you're still Dami, and Dami, Ebbe have to be okay in order for all of those hats to sit right on us. Because if we're not okay, guess what? Mommy branch withers, daughter branch withers. So, we have to, and which is why I did it. I actually put it in my phone with notification to remind me that I need to take time to fill me up, feed my spirit, feed my body, work on my body, work on my mind, work on my mental space, because I have to be right to do right by all of the people that do rely on me.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. And, it is the teamwork that makes the dream work. So hopefully.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes, and I'm glad to see you have that support system. And I'm so happy that you are here with us today. And, I would love for everyone also to find out where they can find you, what you have coming up. Tell us a little bit about that as we exit.
So I am on the socials. I'm on IG as Ebbe Bassey Acts. My daughter is on there too. She's under life_with_Anoushka. So there's that. Right as of now, I'm auditioning for things, but currently it's the book that's been taking my primary focus. I have a read and sign in Harlem at a restaurant called Angel of Harlem on the 21st, which is World Down Syndrome Day. So I have that. I have another read and sign in Connecticut in Westport here. So I'm doing a lot of that sort of thing right now, which is taking this book on the road. I just hit up 2 independent bookstores to get them to carry it. So I'm not just relying on, people just finding it happenstance on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, which is where you can find the book. But I'm doing that work of putting my foot on the pavement and going out there and soliciting independent bookstores, which God knows we really need to keep those alive, because there's nothing like actually walking into a bookstore and smelling new books and cracking that spine and reading. That is a lost art. I'm telling you. And
Sister's Place in Harlem is a great bookstore.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, so I'm trying to book a lot of read and signs and meet people, share my story of surviving postpartum depression, and share my story of my amazing daughter and people like her that are really valuable and contributing members of society that should get more shine than they do, and trying to change this negative mindset that seems to be attached to disability as a whole. People assuming that when you have a child with disability that your life is over. Honey, my life is popping. Let me tell you something. Popping more than some of y'all with your average kids. So don't make assumptions. So that's it, really.
I love that. Yes, I love that. And with your Sagittarius self, like, you're gonna keep it real and 100. So yes, and I'm so glad, and we're gonna check in. We're gonna check in down the line as well, just to
please.
see how it's all going.
Oh,
but
yes.
Ebbe Bassey, like, please everyone
Thank
check Ebbe
you.
Bassey out. Thank you so much for being on Filmmakers
Thank
Therapy
you
Couch.
so much. I appreciate you
Were
having
awesome.
me.
Yeah, and
I'm
until
grateful,
next
love.
time.
Yes.